Hello and welcome to the Camo Grind, a series where I analyze every weapon in Advanced Warfare to help you complete every camo challenge by giving specific strategies, loadouts, and more, including ranking every weapon variant in order of usefulness based on several factors to give you an idea of what you should use and what you should redeem. I don't, however, just make this stuff up. My advice and opinions are based on thorough testing, in-game coded stats, and of course my own experiences in using these weapons and weapon variants, of which I own many, to complete every marksman challenge and earn every royalty camo. Today's episode is on the MAHEM launcher. I realize it is spelled MAHEM because the word mayhem is spelled with a Y, but I'm going to call it the MAHEM anyway because saying MAHEM just sounds kind of weird. Now that that's out of the way, we're doing the MAHEM because the challenges for this thing are very tough, just like in the last episode that we did for the MAAWS. I may reference that video occasionally in order to make this one a bit shorter, so I'm not repeating myself constantly, because there is a good amount of overlap, so you may want to check out that video as well if you're going for the royalty launchers and need some extra help. So the first thing I usually do in these videos is go through the variant ranking, but just like for the MAAWS, there are only 4 MAHEM variants and they are all purely cosmetic. There's no need to rank them, but I will briefly show what I have. The only elite I have is the Fused, and it looks alright, although my favorite would have to be the Bull. It's got that crazy red and white bright color scheme, which looks pretty nice. Enough delay though, let's get to the reason why we're here and get into these god-awful challenges. Player kills are no problem. The MAHEM is actually a decent launcher, unlike the MAAWS. Danger close makes things even easier. You can play some momentum to get people crowding around a flag, or not, it's up to you. It's easy either way, honestly. Let's move on. Killing 25 vehicles, not too difficult. Again, you don't really have to worry about this one because you'll probably get it while completing the other camo challenges. Remember, the Detroit tram turret is often a pretty easy target, and your second easiest target will probably be warbirds because those are pretty common and easy to take out. For the MAAWS, the UAVs were the easy one. Well, not so much with the MAHEM. Speaking of UAVs, that's the next challenge, and you're probably wondering what I have to say about this one because unfortunately, there is no crazy amazing way to complete this that will blow your mind. I really do wish I could say, well, if you run the hardwired perk and activate Exo Cloak, then switch to a weapon with the autofocus sight, the missile will track the UAV. But nah, there is no magic technique, otherwise it would already be all over Reddit and YouTube. This is an unguided missile, simple as that, and this is a really terrible challenge. But all that said, it isn't that bad, in my opinion. I still find the Paladin challenge to be the most tedious. I had my UAV challenge done when I was still at 1 out of 3 Paladins. If you're going about this the right way, it shouldn't be that bad. And the right way I am alluding to is similar to what you have to do with the Paladins. You need to take advantage of the fact that depending on what map you're playing on, and even more importantly, where you are on that map, the UAVs can be really far away or really close and provide a big easy target. Do not waste your time shooting at super distant UAVs. Just firing off Hail Mary shots hoping to get a hit isn't really going to help. You might get lucky, but you're going to get really frustrated doing that because there really isn't any skill involved in that. It's all up to chance, and the further the missile has to travel, the better the chances that you misjudge the distance and the angle that you had to fire at, and also the chance that the missile will alter its course slightly and just miss because they don't travel in perfectly straight lines. That just increases exponentially if you're firing at a target that far away. If the target is close to you, obviously it's going to be a lot easier to judge the angle that you need to fire at, and the chance that the missile will fly relatively straight is pretty good. The MAHEM isn't too bad in that regard compared to the completely unguided RPG, for example, in previous games. This one flies pretty straight most of the time. So for example, the back of Defender here is a good spot, but that UAV over there is just too far away. Don't waste your time if the UAV is that small of a target. You can fire hundreds of missiles at UAVs like those and never get a hit. However, if I turn to my right here, when the UAVs fly past this point, they are a lot closer and they give you a fairly easy target. I completely fail and die here, but I did actually get one of my 5 UAVs in this spot on Defender. Another one I got here on Riot. As you may know from the MAAWS video, stuff flies pretty low on Riot, so there are tons of good spots all over the map. My third was on Horizon. I got one off the back of C here. I missed the first one. Hopefully I'm not making this challenge sound too easy because you're going to get a lot of near misses just like that. But I hit the second one, and I will also add, there are tons of great spots all over Horizon. In fact, on the complete opposite side of the map, this might be the closest you'll ever find UAVs in this entire game. That's not a fact or anything, but this is an excellent spot. I missed this UAV, partially because of a weird thing the MAHEM rocket does when a warbird is in the air. It seems to curve towards them. I'll talk a bit about that later. But anyway, I would go so far as to say Horizon is the best map for this challenge. You'll have tons of chances to shoot down UAVs on this map. I got my 4th on retreat. UAVs fly close enough for you to have a good chance all along the back of the A side. I got one just off the back of A here, and my last UAV was a bit fluky, I will admit. I got pretty lucky on this one. It was a bit of a Hail Mary shot. Recovery isn't really a great map for this, but it worked out, and I never had to think about that challenge again. One other spot that I never got to work for me, but is definitely a good one to consider, is the seaside of Detroit. UAVs fly by fairly closely back here. They actually fly through the buildings, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's a pretty good spot. One other little bit of information I'll drop into this UAV section that I could have mentioned in the MAAWS video but didn't. You'll notice in this clip after I got that UAV, I was about to go for the second one, but stopped, and there is a reason for that. I knew it was too late to try and it was going to fly away, as it did, but I don't have psychic powers. You can tell when a UAV is about to leave. This is something you may or may not have noticed. The UAV will suddenly slow down and drift for a few seconds right before it's about to fly away, and as it does this transition, it actually becomes invulnerable to any bullets or missiles. This is actually something I've noticed in Call of Duty games for over 5 years. They just haven't changed that little section of code that handles the UAV-like streak. From the UAVs in Modern Warfare 2 to the spy planes in Black Ops, they've always done this thing where they slow down right before they're about to leave, and as they fly away, you can't kill them. Many a time, I've fired a stinger at one, and I see the missile hit it as it's flying away, but it doesn't blow up, which has always been a bit annoying, especially in this clip. You can see I fire a bit of a Hail Mary missile at this UAV, not much chance of that hitting, but right after I fire, it slows down, it's about to fly away, and as it begins to do that, I actually get a hit. There's no hit marker because, like I said, you can't injure it when it's flying away, but the missile very clearly hit the UAV. You can see that little explosion there, and sadly, that didn't count, obviously, because it didn't blow up. So that sucked, but that's just the way things are. So UAVs, in recap, it's all about your location on the map. Find some spots that you like, use the ones that I showed, and it'll take some failures, but it shouldn't be too terrible overall. The next challenge is Warbirds, and this one is easier for the Mayhem than the MAAWS in my opinion, and really not a hard challenge at all. I probably shot down over 30 or 40 Warbirds out of boredom while trying to complete the Mayhem Paladin challenge. If you're playing Domination, you're going to see tons of them, and just like I said in the MAAWS video, Warbirds have 2,000 health and the missile deals 1,000 damage. In this case, however, it's much more viable to just use the 2 missiles to shoot it down, since you actually have 2 missiles with the Mayhem, whereas with the MAAWS you only start with 1. So you can do that, just fire 2 missiles at it. Or you can use the same weapon weakening trick as with the MAAWS to take 1,000 damage off it first, then when you see that smoking propeller, fire the rocket and you'll be good. Not a tough challenge in my opinion. Now, the next challenge is the Paladins. Once again, the hardest challenge of this weapon in my opinion. I don't want to repeat everything I said in the MAAWS video because that was a solid 6 or 7 minutes of talking, so I'll outline the key parts. If you want more detail though, I suggest checking out that video. But the Paladin has 3,000 health, so you're going to need 3 missiles to take it out. That's pretty tough, but not impossible like it was for the MAAWS. If you just want to free fire as many Mayhem rockets as you can and hope for 3 hits, you can do it. I only got it to work once that way, but on most maps, it just flies too far away to get 3 hits. I can usually only manage 2 at most. So you'll want to weaken it with bullets first, but you just can't shoot it on most maps because it's too far away. There are, however, 3 maps with spots where it will work, and those are Riot, Biolab, and Sideshow. You're going to want a class like this. 62 shots with the base MLE or 57 shots with the MLE Heavy will be enough to deal that 2,000 damage, but you might not hit every shot, so you can fire a bit more, but be careful as 91 shots from the base MLE or 86 from the Heavy will destroy the ship, which is obviously not what you want. It's pretty tricky, but that's the technique, and it honestly isn't all that bad. The worst part of this challenge is the fact that Paladins are relatively rare, and when you factor in that this only works on those 3 maps, the situation where you have a chance to use that technique is very, very rare. So there isn't much you can do about that. One method is hardcore domination. As I said previously, you're going to see the most kill streaks in domination, so you can play hardcore domination with the advantage being you can shoot down your own teammates' Paladins. And yeah, that's a dick move, but you only need 3. If someone shot down my Paladin for this challenge, yeah, I'd be okay with it. On top of that, the advantage of hardcore domination is if you run the double tap better odds support care package, you can drop that in hoping for a Paladin, and if it is one, a teammate or enemy can take that and you'll have a chance at shooting down that Paladin. Besides waiting for Paladins to be called in, you'll also of course have to wait for the right map first, which can be very, very annoying getting thrown into lobbies where you can't even attempt this challenge unless you have a party. If you have a party, you'll be at a great advantage because number 1, rolling in a party of 3 or 4 hardcore will basically completely prevent you from being thrown into a game in progress, because it's rare that a game is that empty. So you're going to keep seeing new lobbies, which is great. You'll have the option to vote for a map, and if it isn't one you want, just back out and try again, and you'll be able to easily select the right map. And if it's hardcore domination, your friends could even run the Paladin score streak with extra time, and if they earn it, they can allow you to shoot it down. I don't really consider that cheating. If we were on opposite teams and boosting for Paladins, yeah, that'd be pretty scummy. But they're earning legit Paladins and just choosing not to shoot much when they call it in. So anything to complete this god-awful challenge, honestly. One of my Paladin kills was here on Riot in hardcore domination, and it was a teammate's Paladin. Bruce had 13, bro. If you're out there, I'm sorry, man. I cut your Paladin time short, but thank you very much for calling that in. Very much appreciated. But my final Paladin, I don't have to feel bad about. It was actually one I got from a care package. Funny story, I'd been running the care package strategy for many hours, and had yet to get a single Paladin to give someone else while on the right map. But I was lucky that some friends, OG Killer and DJ Claus, were willing to party up and help by running the Paladin score streak, because I only needed one more. Well, it turns out they never needed to earn one, because on my very first care package, on the very first game that we played, I got a Paladin, and I almost accidentally picked it up, and I was like, holy crap, someone take this, and I was successful in shooting that down. So very happy moment right there. That was actually the challenge that gave me my royalty launchers and Weapon Master EXO. Good stuff. So that's the core of the information on the Paladin, but I will issue a warning that may interfere with your ability to shoot down both Paladins and UAVs. It's a very strange behavior that the Mayhem rocket sometimes has. I briefly mentioned this earlier when I said that there was something that caused me to miss this UAV, not saying that it would have necessarily hit, but there was a warbird in the air, and when there's a warbird in the air, it can be friendly or enemy. When you're firing Mayhem rockets at UAVs and Paladins, the missile will often do this big, crazy, weird arc thing towards the warbird, which makes no sense whatsoever, because this is an unguided missile in every scenario except this one. And the weirder thing is, it's not like Mayhem rockets actually track warbirds, because they don't. You can fire a Mayhem right at a warbird, and it will often fly right by in a straight line without curving towards it at all. But for some reason, when you're not aiming at them, it seems, it does this big, ridiculous curving thing where it kinda steers itself at the warbird, but it never actually helps you hit it. It always kind of flies past and then just goes in a straight line. And it's not a coincidence. It very clearly and repeatably does this. So I'm going to call that buggy behavior. I don't know why it does this. It's never helpful. It's just annoying, and it makes no sense because in no way is this supposed to be a guided missile as far as I understand. So that's a thing to watch out for. You basically need to take out warbirds in the sky if you hope to then fire at a UAV or a Paladin. Now let's finally move on from the Paladin and knock out these last two challenges. Goliaths are not hard. There's no trick. You just have to wait for people to call in Goliaths, which can be annoying, but you'll get it over time. If you're desperate, remember you can just run the Goliath score streak yourself in hardcore and let someone take it. If they're an enemy or a friend, that's the bonus of hardcore. Doesn't matter, you can kill them and get the point towards the challenge. And finally, we have recon and assault drones. If you didn't catch the last episode on the MAAWS, you might think this is a pretty tough challenge because hitting those tiny drones is very annoying, but you can actually do this challenge no problem at all by destroying your own tracking drones. Yep, just put them on your class, destroy them with your launcher, and you'll have the gold camo in under a minute. By far the easiest camo here. And that brings us to the end of the camo guide. The Mayhem is quite a pain, just like the MAAWS, but also, just like the MAAWS, it is possible, and if you stick it out, you could earn yourself that glorious Weapon Master EXO. If you want further details on the launcher challenges, or also want some help with the MAAWS, I do recommend checking that video out. But other than that, we're done with the two launchers, the two hardest diamond camos in the game, I would say. It only gets easier from here, thankfully. Next episode, it looks like we'll be taking a look at the crossbow due to your suggestions. Of course, if you have a specific weapon or two you'd like to see covered, either for the camo advice or the variant ranking or even just the marksman challenge like the heavy shield, don't hesitate to suggest it and I'll add it to the list, although I do recommend checking the playlist in case I've already made an episode on the weapon you want. If I see multiple people requesting one thing, the priority on that weapon will just get bumped up, and that's how we will choose what weapon will be next. So I hope you are more knowledgeable about the Mayhem launcher now than you were 15 minutes ago, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Crazy weird arc thing towards the Paladin, which makes no sense whatsoever because crazy weird arc thing towards the warbird, which makes no sense whatsoever because this is an unguided missile in every